Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 10 of Super Switch Heads, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David.
Hey, my name is Matthew Stoner.
I'm Patrick Nisley.
And I am Brian Bonnet.
Hey! Special guest Brian Bonnet in the house tonight.
Thank you.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing great. It's
yeah.
really good to be here. Long-time listener, first-time guest.
Hell yeah, very good.
So, it's great.
Episode 10, we made it into double digits. It's exciting.
Did any of you think that we would make it this far?
No.
Legitimately?
No, I did. But I thought it was funnier to say no.
It's funnier to say no than yeah. We got a great episode for you. What we got on the docket today?
We're going to talk about, of course, all the news and rumors and stuff. There's been a lot of that, but the main thrust of our show is we're going to talk about Nintendo's mobile games. And because we're Switch focused, we're also kind of going to talk about how that impacts the Switch and us as Switch enthusiasts, how we feel about mobile games and Nintendo's foray into that.
It's a wild, wacky world. Nintendo making cell phone games. We're going to talk all about it.
Yeah. But before we do that, we'll talk about the news and rumors that are happening. So we got a couple of things from Wario64, who's a Twitter user. Wario64 posts a lot of like deals, and
he used to be like an admin on Cheap Ass Gamer when that was really big.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, he's good to follow if you're ever looking for like a good deal on anything
game.
Nintendo product.
I got I don't even have a 3DS, but I got a Pokemon. Whatever the last one was, Sun and Moon.
Yeah,
was that one? It was like
Ultra Sun and
Ultra Sun and
yeah.
Ultra Moon. He put there was a price, a wrong price, and I got it for like $30.
Nice.
It was like an error in Target.
Yeah. It was a dual pack.
Yeah.
Then I sold it on eBay.
Good for like amiibos too, if you're trying to find cheap ass amiibos.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry for hijacking.
That's great. Yeah. No, we have a lot of context.
Follow Wario64.
So Wario64 also posts, in addition to that stuff, some leaks and things that happen, and he posted that there was some photos of Best Buy's internal like employee system where you can see like the items they have, and they had some pre-order items or just like some placeholders or something, we don't really know exactly, for Persona 5S, which we've talked about a lot on the show, for Metroid Prime Trilogy, which we've talked a lot about on the show. These are things that we think are coming. And then the weird left field one is A Link to the Past, the Super Nintendo Zelda game.
You got a fan.
So, of course, all this doesn't mean anything. It could just be... Well, it could be fake.
So just to clarify, this is from like an internal employees server for Best Buy.
Somebody,
Best
Buy. Shared these photos with him, and he shared them with us.
Right.
And these SKUs could be placeholder items. I mean, it's likely we're going to get Metroid Prime Trilogy and Persona 5S. But for like A Link to the Past, like that could be a placeholder for something related to Zelda.
Could have just been like a mistype for Link's Awakening.
It totally could be.
Link's Awakening is also listed, right? So that's also on there. So that kind of breaks that down. Although, also, I think we should also say, before we get too much further into this, as of now, they've been taken down.
Right.
Right. So it's like that. This happened pretty much really soon after we published our last episode. And then since then, they've taken them down.
And somebody somebody else that worked at Best Buy verified that this was in their system, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like faked, I guess, but it doesn't mean anything. But it's still interesting, and it definitely is pointing, I guess at least Best Buy thinks Persona 5S and Metroid Prime Trilogy are coming reasonably soon. The Link to the Past thing is really interesting.
It's really confounding. It throws a really big wrench into everything.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it, you're right. It's like, this doesn't necessarily mean that they have an exact date on when the stuff is coming out, or they have clarification that's coming out. A lot of times, like, retailers will put this stuff in speculation wise. You know what I mean? Like, just to have a placeholder for when it does go live. And then all of a sudden you can just point to that in your database or whatever for that SKU that you've already assigned. So it's not necessarily a leak, but it did come right after Best Buy leaked Joker. That Joker image, you know what I mean? So it feels like Best Buy knows some shit that we don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see. The Link to the Past thing, I don't get it, because like I really hope that that's on the Super Nintendo. I really hope that there is a Super Nintendo games come to the Nintendo Online, Nintendo Switch Online system. And if they do, I really hope A Link to the Past is just free on that.
Yeah.
And I hope we don't have to buy
You don't want to buy each Super Nintendo game individually, Patrick? I thought you were a Nintendo fan.
I've already done that.
Yeah, right.
But anyway.
SNES and on the Wii.
Me too.
They're like, we changed our mind. We want the Virtual Console.
So, yeah, we'll see what happens, if anything, with that. That one's just so sticks out.
Odd story.
Wario 64 also just today, as of us recording this, posted, I think there's a new Nintendo ad that came out that showcases Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And there's a brief glimpse of the menu screen where you can see Stage Builder in the bottom right corner. And he shared a screenshot of that just a little bit ago or earlier today.
Yeah, it's an official commercial. It's on Nintendo's YouTube page, and the video is called Nintendo Switch My Way, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And within the first 2 seconds is a picture of the menu and Stage Builders in the bottom right.
That's pretty cool. I didn't really. Did you guys mess around with Stage Builder much, like in the previous matches? Because I really only built a couple levels that were all like really fucking annoying. Like a box
Like
that just had
levels.
ladders. Like the whole thing was ladders. Like that kind of stage.
Yeah, we make the bullshit level so Nintendo doesn't have to.
My buddy Eli Itzen, he just made a giant bong.
I messed around with it a lot more on the Wii than I did on Wii U. Although the Wii U's Stage Builder was more robust, it kind of gave you the ability to kind of draw on the gamepad and everything like that. So you could do a lot more dynamic kind of platform types, but that's not really something that you want in Smash in general. You usually want flat platforms. So I think the Wii version was actually a little bit better. I kind of hope they bring something a little bit closer to that. But I'm excited. This is something we talked about before, definitely speculating as to like what those new modes could have been.
Some data mining that suggested this, and it just kind of makes sense. There also, which means it's probably likely that since the data mining also seemed to hint at home run contest, that we'll probably see that in 3.0. Well, we still don't know when. It's April 9th. We're getting nervous, or April 10th, ready to hear about Joker and this stuff.
Especially if that rumored April 11th direct is
so
true.
We'll talk about this real quick. By now, you listening to this probably know that there is or is not a Nintendo Direct on April 11th. But that's been kind of making the rounds this week. So Gaming Intel is a website of some repute, not
some purport,
some that has some source that says there's a Direct coming on April 11th. So again, by now y'all will know, so we won't spend too much time talking about this. But it's just if there's going to be an April Direct, who knows when it's going to be? It seems like there's a lot of things to announce about Smash, so everybody's going to keep saying there's one coming.
Yeah,
until
either the 11th
until
or the
it's
18th.
E3.
right. But I think definitely if there is a Direct in April, which we have to assume that there will be, there's going to be a lot of Smash stuff in there because they got to show off Joker before he comes out. And we talked about this last week.
Yeah, there's a strong argument for a Direct in April. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot of things hanging out there that we want to know about. But we'll see, and you will maybe have already known if it's coming or not. That did not make
only God really knows.
The tense of that statement didn't make sense. Okay. Tetris 99 has its second Maximus Cup coming up, April 12th through 14th.
Let me quickly edit in some air horn sounds. There you go.
Not that this really changes anything for those of us that struggle to get higher than 50, but there's a point system this time in North America. This is North America. I think Europe has like a lottery system, which sounds much nicer. Have you read about this? So like in North America, it's strictly like the original one was just wins.
Yeah.
The first
you'd have
one,
to win to get a point.
You'd win to get a point. But in Europe, it's like you would get a draft ticket. You know what I mean? Like or like a lottery system. Like you get a chance to win. And then they do a random draw. Yeah.
That's bizarre.
It's really weird that the rules are so different, and it may have something to do with contests.
If you're a listener from Europe, if you can explain this to us.
I haven't spent a lot of time looking into it, but
doesn't make a ton of sense.
It's like, if you get, let's just say it requires a victory, though I think it's similarly like a point system,
right.
Then you get a chance to win. You know what I mean? And that it's like a random draw, right?
Got it.
And so you have more, names in the hat of yours
I see.
for every win you get. Anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining.
That's honestly, that system is more fair than the original win system was.
Yeah, right. Well, it just feels like you have a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
So like the point system is still very heavily weighed towards winning. Like you get 100 points if you win, you get 50 if you're in second, and if you're like above 50, you get 1 or something. You know, so I'll probably have a few points.
I mean, 1 is greater than 0. Yeah, so I'll take it,
especially if it's a lottery system.
Right. Maybe just though.
Yeah, just for a week. You've been wanting to take a little trip. Just this weekend, just go out to Germany or something and play some Tetris 99. See if you can get the $10. It'll be worth it in the long run. I don't know. Definitely the last Maximus Cup, I hit second place and third place. Like most of the times I play it, honestly, I kept getting right up to the very end, but not beating it. So this is good for people like me that can't just crack that very top.
I think
space.
if you play a lot and you get a lot of seconds and thirds, you might have a shot at it. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people in North America.
Yeah,
so it's hard to say because that includes Canada and Mexico. So.
Wow. All right.
So good luck, David. You're our only hope.
We'll check in next week.
Another big news piece that came out this week, they announced that Labo VR is going to be compatible with Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild.
This is a big one.
This is wild because I love that it's compatible, that you can play these games, Breath of the Wild or Super Mario Odyssey with VR, but just like how you hold it.
yeah. It's really wacky.
There's like, I'm trying to think of this scuba game that was on the arcade that you just you move around the periscope,
right?
But your eyes are right up against the screen.
Yeah, it's very much like that. Yeah, it was just funny watching the reveal trailer for this because I saw the title and it seemed. I was like, what? These games are being played in VR? There's got to be a catch. And I watched it and it starts and it's the Mario thing. It's like, oh, it's going to be 3 very specific missions or 3 or 4 specific missions for Mario Odyssey where it's in a fixed position camera wise. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's what they're doing for Zelda. And then it cuts to Zelda and it's like, nope, you can play the whole game from start to finish in VR, which is absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see how good it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume that it'll just be a novelty in Breath of the Wild. Maybe not, but it'll be fun to just check it out and jump off a big tower.
I mean, even the novelty of being at the top of the mountain and having the depth of that will still be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool just to look around. Right. If you're up on the mountaintop and you just want to look around, just moving your head to see within the 3D space, I feel like that would just be fun in and of itself. Totally.
And I haven't played a lot of VR. Matt, maybe you can talk about this, but these games are obviously not first-person games. Is it sort of reduce motion sickness when you play third-person games to have a camera control instead of your head, or is it just
no, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter.
No.
Okay.
I mean, the biggest thing that we're talking about now is Labo doesn't have a head strap.
Right.
And that's why I think it's probably more for the
invite your friends over, have them hold the headset.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's multiplayer. But I think even more than that, when you're talking about comfort and talking about mitigating motion sickness, I think the main problems that if you're going to be playing an entire 200-hour campaign or whatever of Breath of the Wild, then I think the problems you're going to run into is that the Switch screen is 720p. Divide that by 2, and then it's just little circles in the middle of the screen, right? It doesn't even use the full pixel count, right? So you're gonna have massive screen door effects on these pixels, and then also they say for you to have the best VR experience that you need at least 60 frames per second. Ideally, you want 90 or 120 frames per second because the human eye sees at 120 frames per second, right? Or at least as far as we can measure. So it's a 30 frame per second experience like Breath of the Wild is. You have to wonder if that's going to take a toll on the human psyche. You know what I mean? Because it definitely seems like fun, but it's maybe they could boost up the frames per second and the frame count if they're only rendering a smaller circle in the middle of the screen. It just I just need to see what kind of technological wizardry they're going to be doing to make this comfortable, because it doesn't, by all intents and purposes, it shouldn't be a comfortable experience.
Yeah. Again, why I think that really it's just a novel. The novel, they want to just add something that makes it, you want to poke around for a little bit, and because it's not going to be, you don't want to do that 200-hour campaign.
If Nintendo wants to push product, that's right, I use that phrase. Yeah. Of course they're going to use their number one selling franchises in order to sell Labo devices.
Mm-hmm. Also, I was a little bit bummed about this Breath of the Wild thing, because I wasn't here last week when we talked about this, but Monolith Soft hiring for Zelda means that's probably still a little ways off. It's like, well, but they must have been working on the Breath of the Wild sequel. No, they've been working on making integrate with Labo VR.
Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know exactly what the process is.
We
right?
don't.
It could be a little bit more drag and drop than that.
I'm sure it's not the same team or whatever. It was just like, oh man, this is what they've been doing with Breath of the Wild.
I doubt like a total convert. It's not like Skyrim VR where they're like,
that's true.
Where they're making the game like the game is still the game with VR slapped on. It's not like optimized for VR. It doesn't seem, But I think this begs the question more than anything of like what their intent is with this, right? Like they're definitely trying to push this VR shit because like whenever they would integrate previously released games with Labo, it would always come out a few weeks or like a month after the Labo kit came out, right? They announced that they're doing support for these two games before this Labo kit, VR kit even comes out, So like they're really trying to get people at least interested in it and using it and trying it out. And I think if anything, this leads some credence to potentially what they could be doing with the Switch Pro, right? Because if this does well and they're like, oh, people are interested in playing our first party IP in a VR setup, but they maybe don't want to hold it up to their face the whole time, right? That would be a great incentive to buy a standalone headset that can go with the Switch Pro, which would have a 1080 screen maybe.
And better integration with VR.
Exactly. The whole thing just runs a little bit smoother. So I think that definitely this is them dipping their toes in to see what the interest is like.
Yeah, and also I think, like you sort of hinted at, trying to make this one sell better by like having something up front. Yeah, if they had some of that Mario Kart integration up front, that might have helped some of those Labo
for
kits.
Sure. Mm-hmm. I think it would have. Yeah.
Cool. Well, there's a company called Reputation Institute, and they have a thing they do called RepTrack, where they basically in the U.S. This is U.S. specific. They have the 100 most reputable companies. This list they do every year, and Nintendo is 9th on the list, and it's the only gaming company on the list as well. So hey, that's pretty cool. Nintendo has a pretty good reputation.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, anybody? Or
I mean, I feel like whenever you hear about Nintendo as a company, people tend to talk about it in a positive way, and they, even though, they're always making business decisions, I feel like they're generally in line with like some kind of actual philosophy,
That's fair.
They're not just in it for the money, they actually do care about the experiences that they're making. So it kind of makes sense that they're on that list.
Yeah, to add some further context, I'll read you some of the other companies on this list because it's also very funny.
Yeah, the number one was interesting.
Number one is Netflix.
You. Yeah.
Number two, the Hershey Company.
What?
Number three is Whirlpool, Rolex. I'm going to skip down a few, and then there's Hasbro, Costco, Nintendo, Lego, Navy Federal Credit Union, and my favorite, number 12, Bass Pro Shop.
Yeah, dude,
very reputable.
That is a company of some repute for sure.
it's a big building.
I think the main things though that probably put Nintendo up on this list is just like innovation. Nintendo is always at the cutting edge. I mean, I feel like Nintendo always does shit that like the other gaming companies copy. And I think just the fact that they take risks has got to be huge. And then it's like treating their employees well, right?
And consistent quality too. I mean, I think that you talk about Lego. One of the reasons Lego is on that is that, and this is kind of sadly true of both Lego and Nintendo. This has slipped a little bit in recent years, but like, that you buy a Lego set, that those pieces are going to last. Or that you buy Nintendo hardware that usually lasts. Some of these Joy-Cons and stuff we're having some issues with recently, but historically the hardware has been good, and the games are usually good and so on, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's like it's such a powerful brand that people who don't play video games refer to video games as, are you playing Nintendo?
Right.
My mom still does that.
Yeah. It's like Kleenex.
Exactly.
And I mean, something else, and we'll get into it a little bit, and I just a little bit of a preview for what we're going to be talking about, but stuff, when you're talking about an era of loot box and like, and microtransactions, like I feel like Nintendo has shown pretty incredible restraint as far as that's concerned, and that's got to factor into that as well.
And let's use that to talk about our next topic, which is that the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is holding, and Matt, you can talk about this a little bit for us, but they're holding like a workshop on some issues related to loot boxes. That's sort of like a way for them to sit down and think about whether they want to regulate them, or sort of looking into whether they need to be regulated, that kind of thing. Is this something you've been following?
Yeah, I mean, loot boxes are it's such a fascinating business mechanic.
Well, but real quick, sorry to interrupt you. Can you just give your understanding of loot boxes for those viewers, listeners that maybe have heard about them but don't really know what it means exactly?
A loot box is they're in popular games such as Overwatch, Halo 5, Rocket League. Feel free to add any other games.
Call of Duty.
Battlefield
or Battlefront, the Star Wars game.
As well as a lot of mobile games too, right?
A lot of mobile games. So a loot box might be when you're spending real money to buy a digital item.
And isn't it often not just to buy a digital item, it's like a chance at a digital item?
Right,
too,
exactly.
Right?
A chance. That's the good point. So it could be, there's some angles if you look at a loot box, if it's a chance, then that could be considered gambling, especially if it's a consumable item, such as like an extra life or 10 extra lives, or if it's something that's like cosmetic, or if it's something that gives you an edge over and over another player.
Right.
And these have been very controversial. And
I mean,
they've been making
the
game
country of
developers a lot of
Belgium
money.
has outlawed them entirely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how does that? Do you know how that works for like a game like Call of Duty? Is it just they just don't release in Belgium? Or
I think they. I'm probably actually a little ignorant on this, but as far as I understand, basically the Belgian government has been fighting to say that this is gambling and it's aimed at children, right? And that is immoral and illegal, right? And then EA has been fighting it hard, I know, in Belgium, and a couple other companies have as well. And it's a lot of that stuff is still, I think, up in the air, and I think that there are still laws being written, right? But I think it seems like it's kind of starting to come stateside.
Yeah. There's always the big conversation is how do you do loot boxes ethically? Because a lot of mobile games present various means to children who use these games and buy these games. You can buy them. You can spend money really easily,
Right, like click of a finger.
It's really. Yeah.
And there's a chance you could get something you already have and thus get nothing in some of them.
Yep.
You're spending money on something.
Now, Magic the Gathering fans are rolling their eyes. They've been dealing with this for fucking 25 years or whatever.
That's half the game.
Well, like, honestly, too, this is something that's kind of taken over in toys, too, like those blind toy boxes. Have you seen?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Every brand does this now where there are those blind bags of the toys and you might get one you already have and you might not. And then you sit there feeling it at the store trying to figure out what it is.
It's little capsule toys that cost $5 instead of a quarter.
Right.
And so the ethical way to do this that many believe is when you're playing a game, you can still earn what's in the loot box as you play the game normally. It might take a long time. It might take a month or 2 months or 2 years, but you can still earn it while playing the game. And the items that you're earning are cosmetic. So they don't give you extra ammo, faster speed, any edge against, I would say, another player or even the computer.
Mm-hmm. So does Nintendo, and so we're talking about Nintendo mobile games for our main topic, and I'm kind of jumping ahead. Do they have some form of loot boxes in any of their mobile games?
Yeah, they do.
In the Animal Crossing game?
Animal Crossing and also Fire Emblem, and then also Dragalia Lost as well.
They all do?
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of experience with them. It's on the better side of things, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, the Animal Crossing one, that whole game is just cosmetic. It's just get cute shit and put it out. So like, it doesn't give you an edge other than that
there is no edge to have. Yeah,
but for Fire Emblem and Dragalia, I can't pronounce that game.
Yeah, Dragalia Lost.
Yeah, those actually give you like characters you can use.
Okay.
And since both of those do have like a multiplayer element, it kind of gives you a little bit of an edge. With Dragalia, it's a cooperative thing. So it's not as big of a deal, but you still look cooler if you got the cool stuff.
Well, I think definitely, there's also a huge element to this that we haven't talked about yet, in that these games are free, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of the ways that people really have issues with this is when you pay $60,
you pay $60 for a game. You pay $5 for a chance at something. Right. And we don't know the algorithm. It might be a 0.001 chance.
Right.
For the
and
thing you really want.
of course, it makes sense from a business perspective. I mean, it's like, people make money hand over fist doing this. It's like the new way that everybody wants to make money because it's so easy, but it's like, but yeah, it's something that you don't find so much in mobile games. And it's like, it's a good question. Should that be regulated for a mobile free-to-play experience? Because how else are you really going to make money in a lot of these? That's their whole kind of payment model, know? So yeah, it's an interesting topic for sure.
And that'll kind of take us into our main topic, but real quickly, one slightly related news piece. Nintendo's worst mobile game, the Nintendo Switch Online app, was
not Miitomo. We're gonna gloss over Miitomo.
Hey, you watch your mouth.
I love Miitomo. I spent so many hours on that.
It's a far better game than the Nintendo Switch Online app.
I had like a whole album of just Miitomo pictures.
Oh yeah, we'll talk after the show.
The Nintendo Switch Online mobile app got an update, but nothing good. Just one of those crappy updates.
I think this update was to remind you that you have it installed on your phone.
Yeah,
That's
to
the
go
whole
like,
reason.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Although I will say in defense of Nintendo Switch Online app, I still do use it for Mario Kart sometimes. My sister was over recently and we played some Mario Kart Online. Now, that having been said, I turned on the app. Nobody joined. But they could have, and that's part of the magic.
Yeah. I turned it on just because of this update to see. Obviously, there was nothing to see, but I didn't realize that Stardew Valley is on there now, too.
Oh, that is interesting.
That's one
cool.
of the...
Wow. For the multiplayer update.
You can actually chat with your... which I think is co-op. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I hadn't noticed that was part of the app. I was kind of hoping there might be a game I hadn't seen, and that's the one it was.
Data miners, get on it. Let's check out the juicy secrets the Nintendo Switch Online app has for us.
So let's we're talking about mobile apps and mobile games and Nintendo's part in that. So real quickly, just we've already tossed around some names and stuff, but let me just kind of talk about the history of this, and you guys interject if you have any thoughts.
Sure.
But back in 2013, the then Nintendo president Iwata, he said that they weren't going to do mobile games, right? Mm-hmm. Like there was an interview, maybe it was at E3. I might be mixing up which interview this was, but there was this pretty that is not our market. That is not what we're going to do. That would take away from what we're trying to do. And then I don't know, maybe it's just because the siren call of money, the Wii U not doing so well. A couple years later in 2015, he said in another interview, we're going to do mobile games. About 2 years later, it was saying that they found a way to do it.
They teamed up with DNA, right? That Japanese company, and they started cranking them out.
And they said that this won't hurt the value of their IP the way that they're going to do it, and it's going to hopefully convert people to be Nintendo fans. Whether that's true, I don't know. But since then, it's been a part of their output. They've been putting out like a game or two a year ever since 2016. So yeah, you guys were talking about this just a minute ago. In 2016, Miitomo came out, and then Super Mario Run in that same year, and then we had Fire Emblem Heroes come out in 2017. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp in 2017, and Dragalia Lost last year in 2018. And so we talked a little bit about all these, but let's real quick, is it everybody or anybody played some or all of these? Or
yeah, I've played through each one for at least like a little bit just to kind of see what's up. I've always kind of had a little bit of an interest in mobile games in general. It's kind of like the part of the gaming industry that I got into when I was just out of college. I did a lot of internships around town for gaming companies, and so I always had like an interest in the space. Mine was more in like the curated experiences, think cut the rope-ish sort of but more innovative, kind of just it's just a game that happens to be on mobile.
Right. Not so much the gotcha mobile style experience.
Exactly. But, just as it's evolved, I've just kind of tried to keep a pulse on sort of what's been going on because I find it interesting and revolting at the same time. But it makes such a huge impact on the entire industry that you kind of do need to pay attention because regardless of what happens there, it's gonna bleed back into any other form of gaming.
Right, and so I think just sort of a big picture point, right? Like mobile gaming has been successful, right? Like people have made, not everybody that makes a mobile game, it probably not most people that make mobile games, but there's a lot of money there, and so it's called companies like Nintendo, Bethesda, and all these other companies are now trying to make mobile games.
It's the biggest platform in the world. It's like every single person has a console in their pocket,
and it's obviously we're not the target market for a lot of them. We're the kind of people that like to play games on the Switch or the PC or whatever, but so we have a different relationship. A lot of hardcore gamers, I did air quotes there.
I saw them. But that's important is we grew up in video games where a controller or a keyboard or mouse and a screen in front of you. And that provides a really nice experience.
The clicky buttons.
Yeah,
the clicky buttons.
Yeah, and that's how we grew up. But many the many of you that might be listening right now, you probably had a smartphone or like a tablet, and you started playing games on a screen and only on a screen.
10 years from now, even more so, because I watch my 4-year-old and he knows how to, swipe and start and put the code in and start playing a crappy mobile game on the iPad.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that I think about a lot is like I play my Switch with a Pro controller. That's what I prefer. Mm-hmm. But I don't think these mobile games, they're not for me, and I recognize they're not for me, and they're for a certain audience. Yeah. And I think it's important to have that distinction.
So yeah. Also, just the design on the ones that are really successful are very different. Because with like a normal game, it's paced out minute by minute generally, as far as like the scale of difficulty as you're playing them. But with mobile games, they're paced out like as a treadmill. They're made to bring you back. They're made for you to do a small thing every day. And so with like Dragalia Lost, it's actually like a fairly fun game. I don't know if you guys have checked it out, but it's like a third person little action RPG, and the mechanics are actually, they work pretty well on the actual screen. But
kind of a swipe attack stuff, right?
And then you can also like cancel some of the attacks by like holding a press, which will then have like different attacks based off of which item or weapon you're using. So it's kind of fun, but the way that the game is scaled, by the time you're getting to the hard stuff, you've played through those levels like 50 times, so that it hasn't really scaled up at like the normal rate. It almost feels flat.
Gotcha.
And so like I kept on playing it being like, man, I'm almost to the fun part, and then I was like, 30 hours later, I'm like, what am I doing?
But
I tried a little bit of Dragalia Lost, and it was okay. Yeah. But it didn't get me to go back. You know what I mean?
I mean, the story is also very anime.
Yeah.
It's anime. Yeah. I had to just like skip through it, like a lot of it. And I was like, nobody watch me play this game, please.
Exactly. That's what Emily was saying when she was playing Fire Emblem Warriors. But I mean, it's a couple things about that. I mean, Dragalia Lost is an interesting one just in and of itself because it's the first party mobile game that Nintendo has published, right?
And the first like unique IP, like they made
that's what I
this
meant.
game, right? Okay,
right. Yeah, it's like a completely new IP. Definitely seems almost like something that they jumped on. Like, was it DNA who published that or who developed that game?
I don't know. But
I do not know either.
Yeah. But either way, it feels like Nintendo maybe found something that was in development and then added them to their team, right? In order to get more first party IP, right?
Cygames.
Cygames, that's what it was. Yeah. Right. And but anyway. So I find that interesting, but I think it's just a lot of the reason that we are so frustrated with these kinds of games is that we're used to that more tactile sort of game setup, right? And it's like, but I appreciate that Nintendo has not gone that route. You know what I mean? Because that's where I think that mobile gaming would fail, is if you try to emulate that experience on a phone. The only game that I've found that has been able to do that, and with some would say varying success, is Downwell. Yeah. Right? Downwell is a great platformer on mobile, right? Because they've simplified the controls so much to where you can use a touchscreen fine. But I think what Nintendo has done well is they've crafted experiences through different sorts of game design that, are more casual, it's like tapping, or it's like one finger play, like the Mario game.
Yeah, and the mechanics are made specifically for the mobile platform.
Right, exactly.
It's not a port. I have like 6 copies of Chrono Trigger. One of them is on iOS, and it's really hard to play.
Yeah.
One of the few mobile games I have played through are the old Final Fantasy games on mobile, and it's hard, but because they're just menu based, it's not too hard.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, it's like I would much rather play Final Fantasy VII on my Switch than I would on the phone.
Right.
Right.
So.
Well, I didn't quite get to this, but also Nintendo has planned some mobile games that we've heard about that we haven't seen yet, and allegedly coming out this year, though it's been pushed back some. It's Mario Kart Tour coming out this year. Also, supposedly, is Dr. Mario World. And then also, this was maybe even a couple of years ago that the Wall Street Journal said that they were working on a Legend of Zelda mobile game, but we don't really know much about that. It's never been formally announced, I don't believe. But what do you guys think about Mario Kart Tour and Dr. Mario World, or even The Legend of Zelda? Like, I don't know how they're going to do a Mario Kart game on mobile.
It's funny because all three of those sound like traditionally controlled games.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see what they do.
I mean, there's been some very successful racing games on iPhone and Android.
I've never played them. How do they work, Brian?
So they are like motion controlled generally, but because you're doing more arcadey style racing, maybe with some drifting or with just like big turns, it works pretty well. Because I mean, nowadays like the kind of accelerometers, gyroscope controls like work pretty well now. So when you're just doing kind of big turning the whole device, it catches those like pretty consistently. So
you feel like that's probably how they're going to do Mario Kart Tour?
I can't imagine they do it any other way.
Well, I mean, they've already got that option in all the Mario Kart since Wii. You can play with gyro.
What'll they have to take out to make that, like drifting or?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering. Because like, have you guys played the arcade version of Mario Kart?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Namco.
Yeah. And so like the drifting kind of works a little weirder in that one. So I could see them kind of, I'm treating this game almost like a spinoff for the series and sort of, breaking it down like they have with all the other games and trying to build it for like mobile first. So then maybe it's just like a button to hop or something, or just like on side of the screen or like.
Yeah, I imagine it's got to be auto acceleration, just like they have in Mario Kart 8. Right?
I can see that.
I think it's probably just going to be auto acceleration, and then it's going to be a button for items and a button for drift.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have it on either side, like the left and the right, like you have on the controller, I think they could do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting. Whatever they're doing, it better be fucking polished because they've been working on this game for, I feel like 2 years. I don't know when they announced it, but it was a while ago.
I think it was supposed to come out last year, and then it got pushed to the beginning of this year, and then they pushed it to mid this year. And then something I saw said even late this year recently. But I don't know.
Yeah, I have a feeling that they're sort of feeling the heat internally on this one, not just from like, oh crap, we need to release this, but just from how their mobile games have been doing in general. Really, the only one that's been a breakout hit was Fire Emblem, and it's made over like 400 million, which is like a pretty decent amount for mobile. That's
50% of that was just from Austin,
right?
We had on the podcast. He said he spent a lot of money on that one. Well, you bring this up, and there was a news item I kind of kicked down to this part of the show because I want to talk about it. There's a company called Sensor Tower, and I don't know how much repute they have, but
they're not in the top 100.
They have like their own tracking for purchases made in the Apple Store and in Android Store, and they said that the Q1 of 2019 was Nintendo's like third best quarter for mobile gaming. So I guess they're doing okay, or as almost as good as they've been doing. And Dragalia Lost is somewhat responsible for that, though. They also made it sound like that's not doing as well as they would have liked.
Yeah, it seems like so far it's within like the first couple of months it broke like 50 million, which is like pretty good-ish. It's not amazing, but they did okay. But then it's kind of plateaued a little bit. Like there are core users that are still going hard, but there's not a whole lot of new pickup on the game because it doesn't have that IP that people pick up on. They're like, oh, it's a Mario. Oh, it's a Mario Kart.
It was certainly a gamble for them to go.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it was a good gamble. I don't know if it'll pay off in the long run, but I think it was worth looking after because the big mobile games that do well have those tight gameplay loops where like you have a little bit of stuff that takes time. So you have like your base building kind of idea, come in every couple hours or whatever, pick something up. At the same time, you kind of play a couple like quick little hits of this game,
right?
And so like, branching out and grabbing something totally new to try to cater just to that experience, I think it kind of makes sense. And I'm glad they at least tried it,
So this kind of leads me to a question. I mean, for anybody, but Brian, be curious about what you think. Like, do you think Nintendo's mobile strategy so far since 2016 has been good, or the trends they're going forward? I mean,
so I guess that's why I was saying that I feel like Mario Kart Tour is probably making them feel the heat a little bit as well. Is that the games that do the best, like I was saying, are like the tight loops kind of thing.
Right.
And the games that you spend money for up front and you have the whole game,
like Mario Run.
Mario Run, it didn't do great. I feel like some of that was fumbling with the messaging up top as to whether it was a free-to-play game or whether it was a game you had to pay for.
It was like free to start, right? That's what they called it.
Yeah, and that's fine, but you kind of have, like, they weren't as honest with that up front. It was like a little, like, I didn't know how it was going to be until I downloaded and played it for a little bit, and then I was like, oh, okay, that's that's what it is.
And
so
what
I feel like
I've never played it. What is an auto runner? Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Kind of, yeah. It's like an auto runner, but every time you like, you can. It's a one button game. It's basically a one button Mario game, so it's always moving forward. So it's like an auto runner, but you can jump off enemies and do wall jumps and stuff. So it's like, so there's oftentimes you're kind of spamming the jump button in order to move backward in the level.
Okay.
You know, it's a very strange game.
Yeah.
But it works well and it is fun. I beat the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'd say I got my $10 worth.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I didn't end up buying it, but I played through the whole free part and I was like, that was really fun. They did a good job with it. Because there's
the crazy thing is, like, Super Mario Run was announced at WWDC with Apple.
Right.
So Miyamoto was on the same stage as Tim Cook announcing this game.
I think you mean Tim Apple.
Tim Apple, yeah. Mr. Tim Apple. Yeah. Which was like wild to see, like, someone that I respect, that I love about video games. Miyamoto was on stage with a consumer electronic brand.
So if Super Mario Kart World Tour does well, then they might continue pushing these, like, you buy a finished game kinds of things. But I think if it does as well as, like, you know, Super Mario Run, they might stop. They might stop doing that because they're not getting the return on investment that they're probably expecting from these things.
I can't see them doing an upfront purchase for Mario Kart Tour.
Oh, you don't think so?
Yeah, I don't think so.
You think it'd be free to play?
I think it's going to be free to play. Yeah,
Because I think to buy new carts and new
I think
characters
that
and
I think we would have seen another game that wasn't free to play by now if they weren't going to keep doing free to play. I think it's like the free to play games have just far outsold, and more people are spending more money on the free to play games than they made doing Mario Run. And it's like, I just think that ship has sailed, and I think they figured that out. And I think that's probably I bet you're right in that they started it as a paid game, right? And I think now they're trying to figure out how to do it free to play and not fuck their customers. Like Nintendo is deathly afraid of, you know what I mean? Like they really don't want that reputation. Like we talked about a couple weeks ago, how it was like the developers of Dragalia Lost were like, we kind of wish that they had more microtransactions in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Nintendo doesn't want it. So it's like, I think they're kind of still feeling everything out. I think it's like these next 3 games are going to do way better. You know what I mean? Like Mario Kart historically is the best seller on like any Nintendo console, right? So it's like, I feel like if they play their cards right, this could be their most successful mobile game yet.
Yeah,
you know?
it could be, but then it could also just be another just middle of the road kind of thing. I think it's going to do okay regardless, but they really need that breakout hit. Like Fire Emblem is doing it fine, you know, but it's not insane. You know, for a game that's been out for over a year on mobile, making, you know, like 400 million, like that sounds great, but that's just okay.
Well, if I can sidetrack us for 1 second, if you want to know something that is doing insane, that's kind of a Nintendo mobile game, it's Pokemon Go.
Yeah, so
like,
I was actually going to bring that up next.
Yeah, like that is still doing crazy numbers to this day.
So that's a 2016 game as well, and I meant to talk about the Pokemon games. They are technically licensed out to third-party mobile developers, as I understand it. So none of them are Nintendo mobile games, but they are, right, in another way.
Yeah, sure.
So there's been a bunch of Pokemon games, but the one everybody knows about is Pokemon Go, and it's been out for roughly 3 years now, and it's still doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's got a huge community. They have community days every month.
I still see groups of people playing it out on the street all the time.
I do too. My office is like my office isn't, but is above a coffee shop, which is a Pokestop or whatever they're called, or I don't know. And when it was big, it was nuts. Like that for that week or whatever, like 2 years ago or whatever it was.
It was like a good couple months.
Yeah, well,
that was so much fun.
I had a blast playing it.
I have great memories right when Pokemon Go came out.
That 4 weeks, like I would go out into the park, talk to a random stranger about Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I would be at an airport waiting for my airplane next to someone playing Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I would have to fight through crowds of people to get to my office. Because there were people on the street outside this coffee shop.
That's
just
so funny.
like,
Patrick, why do you hate fun?
Right.
I wasn't upset about it. I thought it was funny. Like, a lot of people were upset about it, but like, you know, because it's like, oh, what are these people doing? You know, like, but I was like, this is interesting, phenomenal.
I got a lot more people into churches. So it's like,
I actually found a couple landmarks around my neighborhood because of Pokemon Go.
there you go. See, there's something for everybody.
It got you out of the house. That was one kind of interesting thing about it.
Pokemon Go has definitely fallen off the radar for me, but I still know people that play it all the time, and they've been adding tons and tons of Pokemon into it.
I feel like it's the game that they promised us at the start, where it is now.
Is.
Yeah, because you can do trainer battles, like the raids and stuff. They look pretty fun. There's a lot more features than just
you can trade and stuff at this point. Yeah.
And I kind of want to move us on to how mobile gaming affects the Switch. But before I do, I want to ask: is there any other thoughts about just sort of Nintendo mobile games? Are they any good, or like how do you feel about them?
I want to speculate about Dr. Mario. World.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about that one.
If like Tetris is in cultural zeitgeist right now, it's back. It's more popular than ever. Then I love Dr. Mario.
Yeah, me too.
Music is great. Mm-hmm. What if Dr. Mario World is a battle royale?
You wouldn't be surprised if there's like a mode at least for it.
It's got the word world in it, which definitely implies that there is some
multiplayer,
right. Co-op multiplayer or competitive multiplayer. I don't know. But
what if you have to go around to different areas in your town and catch germs?
It's Pokemon
Go.
It's like an AR
game. You're catching pills, shooting them at viruses.
Well, I think that would be tight. That's a game where at first I was worried about the controls, but then I played, I think it's called 99 Blocks. It's the kind of precursor to Tricky Towers. And the way that they do Tetris style controls on the phone actually feels really natural with the swiping and the dropping and then you click to turn. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that would work perfectly for Dr. Mario. So I'm pretty pumped about it. I think they're going to do a good job with it.
Well, before we move on, then what about Legend of Zelda? If they do actually make a mobile game for that, what do you think that would look like?
I have no fucking idea.
I mean, it's just got to be like a mobile, like a top down,
like Dragalia Lost, kind of in terms of the actions.
I just don't see how that game translates to that kind of gameplay loop. I feel like it's just got to be like a Legend of Zelda game.
Ooh, what if that's a Link to the Past?
Yeah,
that Best Buy SKU. It's like
you have to buy it at Best Buy.
Well, I don't know. They could have like a card or something. Yeah. That could be that. All right, you heard it here first, folks.
Well,
but before we move too far on, can we just have a real quick Miitomo postmortem?
Hell yeah.
Like Miitomo was fucking tight.
Tell us about it for those that didn't.
Okay, so Miitomo was just an odd little game. It wasn't even really a game. It was like a strange messaging service that you could do with your friends. If it was anything else, like if anybody else made that, nobody would give a shit. But it just had this incredible amount of like Nintendo polish on it. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing just felt so fun and delightful to play. And all you would do, basically you would use your Mii that you'd created, and you would buy little outfits for your Mii. I bought my Mii a very nice sundress that I still have photos of to this day. And you would basically, everyone would be asked questions, and then you would answer the questions, and then you would like see what your friends answered to the questions that you also answered. Mm-hmm. It was very bizarre, very Japanese. But I had so much
intimate too.
Very
you
intimate.
would find out really weird details about your friends.
Yeah,
what STDs do you have?
Dude, I kind of had like a pretty major crush on a girl on Miitomo. Like, I'm not gonna lie. What were you gonna say?
And now she's your girlfriend.
And now we've been married and we have 5 little Mii children.
I totally forgot about the questions.
Yeah.
Because you like design your Mii, the sequence of events is like you design it and then it asks you like maybe 5 or 6 questions about like where you're at. I'm trying to think of what.
Just different random stuff.
Yeah, it was all over the place.
Like what is your favorite brand of marshmallow? Well, not like that. But
it's like what did you have for lunch today?
Yeah, stuff like that. And then it would always read the answers out. Like everybody would have their own little computerized voice that would do this weird like text to voice, like robot voice. It was so funny. It just very much felt like a Tomodachi Life
totally
light sort of game,
yes.
you know? But I loved it. I mean,
I did too.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Miitomo?
I mean, at the end, they tried to make it profitable by adding that like gachapon style, like drop it down, a pachinko game, to get the other things. And it was like, if you could play a good bit of it for free, but then if you wanted to start paying for it, it got very expensive very quickly.
Right.
But it wasn't enough, and it was too little, too late.
And they basically shut down the whole service. So if this sounds like fun to you,
too bad.
You missed out.
You can never play it again. And I every now and then I like look at the icon and I'm like, man, I really wish I could still play this because it was a really good time. And And I just like that it would bring you back every single day. There would always be like new things for you to do, new poses to put your Mii in. That was the most fun part.
Like you'd log in and it would be like, it would give you a random photo of your like Mii in a weird pose with a weird background and a weird face.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
have like some weird caption. And it was just like every day you got a new little photo.
Oh man, that shit was fun.
Okay. Well, we need to move on, but
we're a Miitomo podcast now, damn it.
But before we move away from mobile gaming, talk about what we've been playing this week, I did want to ask if what you guys think about does Nintendo's mobile gaming focus or this tier of their business, how do you think that affects development for the Switch? Do you think it takes away from it? Do you think they have enough resources to do that? Do you think it adds to it because this money that they're making from it is good? And let's start with that. Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
I would say Miitomo came out in 2016. Switch came out also in 2016?
2017.
Yeah, so between then and now, we got Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. We like incredible games. So it doesn't feel like it's impacting the quality of the content for the Switch.
Yeah.
They feel like separate teams, right, that are working on these things. And I feel like it shouldn't affect like Switch hardware games. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they've basically gotten like other companies to make it. They're partnering with, someone like Cygames or Niantic to, build a Nintendo-like game. And so they probably have people that go in. They have got a few resources that are going in to make sure that it's up to a certain standard, help like design out some of the base ideas. But I don't think this affects the Switch games in the least.
I think that maybe Miitomo was like their in-house staff, which is probably why they killed it.
Right.
Because it was just too much work for them to upkeep. You know what I mean? And not enough people were doing it, right? Totally. So yeah, and that just speaks to where Nintendo's at right now with sharing their first-party IP with other sorts of developers. It just kind of all feeds into this kind of new Nintendo that we're dealing with now.
And then let me ask you this question. Is mobile, as we know that the 3DS is arguably on its way out, is mobile gaming the new 3DS? Do you, how traditionally Nintendo's had these two tiers of handheld gaming and console gaming, and now we have the Switch, which is both. But is mobile kind of take the place of 3DS, or do you think that's where like maybe the Switch Mini fits in? And there, so we'll still have these three separate tiers. Any thoughts on that?
I don't think the mobile is going to become the new 3DS just because of how mobile games make money. The traditional style where you make a game and you pay for it, that you can still find success there, but that's not where you really get a lot of money out of it. And I keep on talking about money like I'm a huge greedy guy, but I feel like that's
what drives our society.
But I feel like that's
for that $20 bill,
right? But I feel like that's why Nintendo's getting into it. They've always, been like one bust away from falling apart as a company, and if they can set up some kind of thing that can sustainably give them just a little bit of cash, like that would give them a lot more space to be able to continue to be as creative as they have been with the Switch. Because they were backed into a corner and then they just swung for the fences, and luckily it hit. Or very easily could have not. Like this could have been the death of Nintendo.
Yeah, to support that even more, like Nintendo is a game company. They make art, but they're also a business.
Yeah.
Well, and recently Furukawa was talking in an investors meeting, and he kind of dropped that stuff where he was like, he goes, we're going to be making games whether or not we're even making consoles. You know what I mean? Everybody flipped their shit and they were like, oh, there are no more Nintendo consoles. Right. You know what I mean? But what he was talking about was stuff like this.
It's flexibility.
Yeah. It's like we want to future proof at this point. We've lived long enough doing our own thing and not staying up with current digital trends and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, we're a new Nintendo now, and we want to at least have a little bit of our toes in all of these different ponds, be that the mobile market, be that streaming games, be that whatever. I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of this kind of them stepping outside of their normal Nintendo box in the years to come. And I think it's good.
Me too.
Yeah. If there's that switch for the Netflix of video games within the next 10, 20 years, then it makes sense that Nintendo is developing for these platforms.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. Well, I think that we'll move on then to what we've been playing this week.
Good talk, everybody.
That was fun.
Very nice.
Let's start with our guest, Brian. What video games have you been playing over the last week or so, give or take?
So, as per David's rec on the last episode, he's talking about some 2-player Picross.
Oh.
I did a little bit of that over the weekend with my boyfriend, and that was very fun.
Oh, it's really delightful, isn't it?
I didn't think it was going to be, but it was actually really nice.
I've only ever watched David play Picross. I've never played it. How does 2-player work?
There's just 2 people working on the same puzzle.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, that's why I didn't
the only difference is the blocks you fill in have different colors, so you can tell who filled in which block.
Yes.
Oh, so this is like online?
No,
you're just on the
in
couch.
person.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we did a little bit of that over the weekend. That was very fun.
Yeah, really fun.
One of my friends for Christmas gave me a Cave Story, and I haven't played that in like a million years. And so I'm trying to beat the Hell section right now, and it is very hard. So I'm doing that, and then playing a lot of Tetris Effect on the PS4.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys have played that, but it's
it's great.
It's wild. It's like really tripped out Tetris.
What's different about it?
Do you have a PSVR?
I don't. I wanted to play it on PSVR so bad.
You have to play it.
He's got it.
Play it
You should try it
afterwards.
before you-
Absolutely. I almost just as I knew you had PSVR, I almost brought the disc over. Just to be like, I don't know what you're doing.
Well, what is Tetris Effect? Just real quickly.
So it's have you ever played like Rez or any of those kinds of games where it's the same director, but the whole game is like when you rotate blocks, it makes do da do 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 do, and then when you drop them, like effects come out, and as you're playing and you get further in the level, it starts moving faster, and the effects are greater, and there's just it's a very tactile audio visual experience.
It feels like a cross between Tetris and Luminous.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
totally.
Yeah.
And so other than that, a little bit of Nair. I'm trying to finish that game up.
Okay.
Halfway through, it's very good.
Yeah, very good.
Nice.
I'll go next.
David, yeah.
Good games, by the way, Brian. Pound it. We just pounded our fists. What have I been playing? Not too much this week that I haven't already been playing in the past. I've been kind of busy this past week. But I did today play quite a bit more of some Horizon Chase Turbo. I made my way through the kind of World Cup, or the kind of the sort of main mode of the game, and they have tons of extra modes in that game. And the endurance mode is really fun, and tournaments as well. So if you guys ever want to come over and play some more Horizon Chase Turbo, I love that game. I really enjoy it. It's a really good time. And then something I haven't just really talked about that much is I've been going back to Binding of Isaac again recently. That's one of my favorite games of all time. I've put just thousands of hours into that game, but it's the perfect game, I think, for when I'm out at, say, a doctor's office or something like that, and I know I have 10, 15 minutes to kill. Just fire up Binding of Isaac, either continue a run I was already on, or start a new one or whatever. So it's kind of the perfect game for that. It's all offline, so you don't have to worry about internet or anything like that. I will say, there was a minute where I was just on fire with Binding of Isaac. I think my biggest win streak is 58 wins or something like that, or maybe 62 wins in a row. Yeah, those were Isaac, where I was playing as Isaac with the D6. And I was just I was just slamming them, right? And I was just doing so good. And now I just feel like I suck, y'all. I keep going back to it, and I just keep dying. And I'm better than this. I know I'm better than this, but I think I just kind of got rusty. And they've also added some new new stuff in the most recent patch. So it's I'm dealing with some new items and enemies that I didn't have before, but, definitely looking forward to playing that game more, especially when the Repentance DLC comes out, which should be coming out hopefully sometime this year. But if any of you guys are Binding of Isaac fans and are familiar with the Anti-Birth mod for PC, basically they're bringing the entire mod into the main game. So it's going to be kind of a huge total conversion thing. So I'm really pumped about that. I'm just trying to get my game on for whenever that comes out. What about you, Matt? What have you been playing?
I have these seasons where I'm really into playing old arcade games, and right now I'm in a season where I love playing old arcade games. You guys walked in, and I was actually playing NBA Jam.
I saw that, yeah.
But there's 2 games that I've been playing. Number one is an old Final Fight fighting game. It's really bad. But it was arcade only, and I wanted to experience it. And the second one is Ergies. You ever played Ergies?
Nope.
No.
EHRGEIZ.
That doesn't sound like a real game.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not orgas. That's what everyone's thinking. I think that's how you say it. I could be wrong. If you want to correct me, feel free to send me a tweet.
At Super Switch Heads on Twitter.
Yeah. But it's a square fighting game, and the reason why it's so strange is a 3D fighter, but Tifa and Cloud are in it.
Okay.
They're unlockable characters. So to play as Cloud in a fighting game that's way before Smash, and to play Tifa in a fighting game is like wild. So I've been playing that. It's not that fun of a game.
But it's cool. You've been playing this on your MAME cabinet, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've been using Launchbox, so shout out to ETA Prime. He's a YouTuber guy. I don't know if he listens to this. But
he definitely listens.
yeah. He creates great software and lets you organize and shit. So
cool. Great.
Nice.
What about you, Patrick? You been playing some of that new Yoshi?
I have, but first, before I talk about Yoshi, I beat Wander Song this past week.
Oh, nice.
So I think it took me about 10, 11 hours. My Switch shows 10 or more. But just so everyone knows, it's probably about a 10-ish hour game, and I still highly recommend it. It's just so positive. And, I know Celeste got a lot of accolades for being about talking about generalized anxiety disorder. This game isn't about that, but it has some very real, stuff about insecurities and compassion and friendship and stuff that you don't see in a lot of video games. So play Wander Song. It's a really unique experience and a fun 10-hour story. Then I'm still very close to 100%ing New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe.
Bowser's Inside Story.
And Knuckles.
You guys, so there are 8 main worlds, and then you beat those, and you get all the coins, and you open up a 9th world, Superstar Road, and there are 8 levels on that.
Yeah.
I was stuck on the second level for a week. And
no.
Today I beat it. I got all the coins, and then I knocked out the next 5, in the next hour. And so I'm on the last one. So
You gonna beat that when you get home?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I've tried to beat it today. We'll see. In the next day or two, I think.
And I remember this is new for you because you're not a completionist.
Normally. I'm not a completionist, but sometimes in platformers I am. Platformers are the ones where
Mario
I feel like
games,
I can do
will.
it. I Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, I got all of that. I did not beat it on hard mode to get the 200% or whatever.
Right.
I hate games when their 100% isn't 100%. You guys, that drives me nuts. But anyway, then I have been playing Yoshi because Yoshi came out I guess a week and a half ago.
This is Yoshi's Crafted World.
Yoshi's Crafted World, right? The new Yoshi game for Switch. And I have pretty much exclusively been playing it with my 4-year-old. And this is the perfect game to play with a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
It's the right time for my kid to play this game. You know what I mean? We play it on mellow mode, which gives you wings, so you can kind of Kirby a level. But it's even better than Kirby because you can just hold down the A button and
you have to keep tapping it.
Yeah, you can keep tapping it to gain a little bit of height, or you can just hold it and he can just cruise, and you don't really die. Because that'll be frustrating to him. I mean, you do die, but you just become an egg and pop back to where you were when you're on mellow mode, at least. So, we went out and bought him his own controller because he was playing with my Joy-Cons in a grip, and I was like, no, half the time when he's
I don't want drift, son.
Exactly. So I was like, we're going to go to Best Buy and you're going to pick out.
We're going to get you a pocket controller.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to pick out a Power A. So yeah, it's been really great. He's excited about his controller, and though I will say it's criticisms, the co-op is great, but there are a few things that are lacking. I've heard people complain about you can jump on each other's backs, right?
Right.
And that's not a huge problem. It happens by accident all the time. But the problem is that if you're the person who is on the bottom, if the other Yoshi is riding you, you can't kick him off. And if you're the bottom Yoshi, you can't throw eggs. So if he lands on me, I will be like, hey, throw an egg at that. And he'll be like, no, I don't want to. And then I'll be like, then jump off of me.
Let me do it.
Man, also, just a Yoshi riding a Yoshi, that shit ain't right.
But it is a super fun, charming game, though I'm worried it's a little short.
Right.
Because we're narrowing in on beating it. There's 2 gems. You collect 5 gems, or I don't know. Maybe there'll be something after that. I don't know.
Right.
But I'm like, this isn't the longest experience.
How are you digging the kind of reverse level stuff?
I
whenever
think
you
that's
beat it and you
what's
go backwards?
cool about it. That the levels, you get to see them both ways. That's one of the most. It's not super unique in a lot of ways. It's just a 2D platformer. The art's cool. The music kind of sucks. The music is fine. It's just repetitive.
It's
like the
sucks.
same
Yeah.
song on every level practically. And sometimes it's the same song, but slowed down and a little spookier, or you know what I mean? Like, but it's kind of like, where's my unique music for each
Where's that
world?
Yoshi's Island music? You know,
Hell
that had
yeah.
good music. Yeah.
But yeah, the cool thing is kind of replaying the level and going back through and seeing it from the other side. Like, and I think I will have some fun once we beat it, going back and like trying to get everything on my own. And
Are you going to play it in normal mode?
Yeah,
do you think?
I don't. I will probably. Another criticism: I hate games that don't have more than one save file. So, like I like to play all the games that I play with my son on my profile, so I can see the playtime and stuff.
Sure.
But like, I just give me another save file option, like so that I could have my own playthrough, because I can't right now unless we play under different profiles. Which
I see. You can't even change the mode
it's
from mellow mode.
You can change the mode anytime, but it's the same save file.
Wow. Interesting.
So, I mean, I could start a new one on a different profile, but I'm just weird about that, and I don't want to.
Sure.
So
You should probably just buy a new Switch.
Yeah, that's it.
though I hear that then your playtime isn't like it's managed on the Switch. So until you exceed your playtime so like if you played 10 hours of Yoshi on Switch A, until you get to 15 hours on Switch B, it won't update your time.
Okay, Patrick, you need to just buy 2 Switches and compare to see what happens.
And only play unique games on each
I think
one.
you should buy a Switch for each game you own.
That's the solution, David. At any rate, it's a good game. It's got its flaws. It's a really great game, like for a kid, it's to play with. But you know, I imagine it's fun. I would probably enjoy it on my own.
Did you get it physically or digitally?
I got it physically. I'm. If it's games I'm gonna play like once or you know what I mean, I'm getting physically, because I do think as my kid gets older, we will probably have a second Switch, and you know, especially if a Pro comes out, I'll give him my old one or whatever, you know what I mean? And I think for games that I don't want to just quickly pop over to, I'm buying physical, because you can get them cheaper.
Cool. Well, that's an endorsement from the Switch heads. It sounds like a good game.
Yeah, awesome episode, you guys.
Yeah, that was fun.
Hey, Brian, thanks
Yes.
for being on.
Thank
this
you for
episode.
coming
thank
on,
you.
Brian.
Letting me come.
That
This
was,
was a
you were
blast.
very insightful.
Thanks.
You played far more Dragalia Lost than we have.
Yeah, thank you.
I had a weekend where I had nothing to do.
I started it, and you know, it does that thing where it's like, so you download the game, and then you beat the first part, and it's like, do you want to keep playing the game? And I'm like, I guess so.
Why did you give me the option to quit?
And then it's got a huge secondary download.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
With like a crazy cutscene while you're downloading it. It's
Yeah.
like a full start of an
I was
anime.
I wasn't ready to
cutscene.
watch a movie right now.
Shit. Well, that was a good episode. I guess let's go ahead. We should thank Corduroy for the music.
Thanks,
Corduroy.
Everybody check out Corduroy, by the way. He's on Bandcamp. He's on Spotify. He's got some great records. He's a good guy.
How do you spell
Corduroi. Corduroy. Yeah,
Corduroy
that's
is a
how you
hard
find
word to spell to begin with, and then he's got a slight
it. And then
variation.
he's got his own version. That's right. But yeah, check us out on iTunes. We're on Spotify.
Yeah.
We're on YouTube.
Leave us a review.
Yeah.
Send us an email with some questions if you have something you want us to talk about.
Yeah, and find us on Facebook. Join the group. We'd love to be getting some more questions through just the Facebook group.
Or the Discord. Matthew over here has been cleaning up our Discord. We're ready to have
I went
you
a little
come join.
emoji crazy.
I had to give you a kind of a stern talking.
No,
to.
it's
I love it.
It looks great.
There are some
You a fan?
emojis.
Thank you,
All right, cool.
Brian. Thank you, David. Fuck you.
All right. But yeah, we're on Discord. You can find a link to that on our Facebook page. That's just Super Switch Heads. And I guess other than that, you can find me online at Monolith Fiji.
You can find me on Twitter at Matthew MATHYOU.
And I am PDYX.
And I am at BD Bonnet, Bonnet.
Hey, there you go. Look us up, babies. Give us some followers. We crave the attention. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the show. We'll be back next week. Have a good rest of your time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.